So here we are with my assembled Redback Tricopter. I'm just going to go over how I did the electronic fit out. You notice it's got a Cirrus Air V1 on it. I actually prefer the V2. I'm not really wrapped. The V2 is a lot easier to tune and flies a lot better. Not totally wrapped with the Air, but it's the one I've got. Admittedly, I've got this flying very nicely with the Air V1 on it now that I've tweaked it enough. But if you get an Air V2, you'll find it flies a little bit better. But anyway, I'll come back to the flight controller in a minute. That's what I've got on this at the moment. But, okay, so how do we fit the electronics to it? Well, first thing you do is fit your motors, which just bolt in. The mounts are built for, the mounts come ready for an 1806 motor with, the motor mounts will allow for the screws to go from 12mm spacing right out to 18mm spacing on the motor mount bolts. So you can get your screws in very easily through the back of the mount into your motor, simple enough. The front motors, I've actually shortened up the motor leads, and I've attached my ESCs using a cable tie and a bit of double-sided tape to the underside of the arm, and the output leads of my ESC actually sit through the leg. If you break the leg, it's a bit of a pain in the ass because you've got to undo the motor ports to feed them through the new leg, but using the leg as a bit of cable management actually makes it nice and neat. Mind you, you've still got a spot here to fit a cable tie when you're done with your motor ports in. So that's how I fit up the front arms. Okay, you could do the ESC on the top if you want. I just think it's a little bit neater with the ESC on the bottom. In case you're interested, I'm using the Plush 10 amp ESCs here. I actually quite like them. They've been around. I've been using them since, well, the first Scarab Avatar I ever built had the 10 amp, or was it the 12 amp ESCs in the Plushes fitted. And lots of they can be hacked and you can reprogram them with various bits of firmware and stuff, but for the money and for the performance, I quite like them. Okay, I'll just pull this LiPo off. So that's how you fit up the front motors and ESCs. The rear motor screws on the same way, and you can run the motor lead wires down through the alloy rear tube, so they come out at the collar here in the pivot tail. Okay, now what I've done is I've left the leads full length on these motors, pulled the ports right through, plugged the ports from the ESC back in, and then pulled the excess back through and just done a little cable tie with the excess back here. So my bullets are actually inside the boom. Okay, up to you how you do it, but I just found that makes it easy. I've just stuck my ESC onto the side of the servo block here, with a bit of double-sided tape. This little bit of tape you see there is just holding this LED in place, because with the Paris series of flight controllers, the Air and the Air 2, you do get an LED trigger which lets you see what you're doing with trim and arm and all that sort of thing, and I like to just have that external LED out so I can see things. Okay, alright, so that's my ESC for the rear sitting just on the side of this. Okay, you can see once I've got my cables through the channels I mentioned earlier, I've just used a piece of Velcro, which is my battery Velcro, to hold all that in place, and I've done a very simple power loom here straight into my battery connector, literally by, I had to extend the rear ones, but literally by twisting the various wires, and include one JST loom in my power lead. This will be for my video transmitter later. Okay. In your kit, you're also going to, forgot to mention earlier, you also get one of these little red blocks. Okay. And what this little red block does is it sits in this little gap you've got here on the side of the servo mount, on the extended side of the servo mount. You can see how the servo sits off center. So that just sits in there. I just used a bit of double-sided tape. Could glue it in if you wanted to with your CA. It's up to you. But that just gives you a nice flat surface, which is where I've stuck my receiver. Don't have to stick your receiver there, but that's what I've done. The air is on top with just a couple of bits of gel tape, which gives it a bit of isolation but holds it in place. And if you just do a strip front and back, it leaves you a lovely little channel for a Velcro strap to pop your battery in. Okay, I'm running 1300s on this. You could run 15 up to about a 1500. You've got a bit of room. Only trick is just to make sure that you get the CG right with the battery in place. Okay, and that's it. That's pretty much the electronic placement on it. But there are a few options available. As I said, this is the air. I like the air because it's in a solid metal case. Multiweecopter.com also do a Paracirrus Naze 32 in the same case, which funnily enough they manufacture for Timecop as well. So Timecop, the originator of the Naze, has now gone for an encased design as well. But if you want to run a standard Naze board, I have available, at a slight extra fee, an optional Naze mount. And it's got two little studs on the back that line up with these two rear holes. And that, if you have the little notch, there's a little notch in the back of the plate. Have that to the rear, and you sit those in the two back holes, so you can still see the front holes. That is the control center point for the airframe. So your Naze can just screw straight onto that plate if you want to use a Naze 32. It also produces a channel you can get your Velcro through. So away you go. As another option, I also have a Mobius mount. Now this one it comes in two pieces. It's quite a solid bracket. It really encases the Mobius. They can be a bit delicate, and I've played around with cheaper, sort of lighter things, but I like this particular design because it tends to hang on to them a bit better. Certainly can't slide out the back, and it also has the added bonus of sort of covering over the SD card slot. If you need to ask about that, you haven't found out yet. So this ships as two pieces. Again, it's available as an option. And basically there's the bracket and there's a 12-degree wedge that comes with it, which I, again, use my CA glue just attach. Oh, by the way, this plate, either CA straight onto the top, or if you want, use a bit of tape. You could even use gel tape if you want to use a bit of isolation. Entirely up to you. The pins really are just there to locate it. They won't hold it on permanently. All right, so either CA, double-sided tape, or gel tape that on. As I said, I've used a bit of CA to attach these together, and I use PU gel to then attach this onto the nose of the frame. Okay? Or if we're looking at my fitted out one, hey presto. Only hassle then is I can't get at that USB. I've actually had reasonable results just using Velcro to attach that on there, and the Velcro itself does tend to cut down on the jello a little, not perfectly, but you could Velcro that onto there and PU gel be in that layer if you wanted to, or just glue some foam in between those two pieces. There's lots of simple, easy solutions that let you fit that onto the nose there, and you've still got room underneath to mount up an FPV camera in between those legs. Now I've deliberately left that nose section, coming back to this one just so you can see it better, I've deliberately left this nose section as a solid block, so you can, it's actually a honeycomb the way it prints. It's actually a hatch. If you snap this open, it's not completely solid plastic. There's a bit of air in there just for weight reduction, and actually the cross hatch inside actually increases the strength, I've found. You can, if you want to, for your camera mount, just drill a hole through that, won't hurt it, nut and bolt, it's attached, or you could double-sided tape your camera on, or gel tape your camera on, whatever you want. So you've got room at the front there for an FPV camera, and again you've got, and that leaves you with some room finally at the back here for video transmitter. That will, and by the time you get it out and your antenna up there, you'll be out of the way of the propeller. Just remember as you're positioning it to make sure you actually tilt the motor over and make sure it's not going to clip it when the clip anything when the motor is tipped over. And that's it. That's how you can option up your Redback, fit all your electronics to your Redback. You can use the Mobius mount on the quadcopter version. There is a slightly different version of the nose plate available for the quadcopter if that's the way you want to go. And as I said, all the parts are available separately. You order it via at this point in time, you order it via my Facebook group. There'll be a link below, but it's Dietz Multi-Rotor stuff on Facebook. Or if you want to, drop me a message here on YouTube. And I can get with your email address and I can get in touch and we can organise for me to ship one of these to you. Initially they're going to be, I'll be printing by order. If demand gets to a point where I need to, I'll then start pre-printing parts, particularly things like legs and arms. They will be ready to ship within 24 hours. So like I said, we're not going to get stuck with parts not being able to come out of China. It's very lightweight. Anyway, I'll do a separate video on the features. Catch you later.